Hello, you're back with Dave and Tim at the Single Malt Review, and when it comes to independently bottled single malt Scotch whisky, there are a few names which you always hear, which are always worth a look, and Signatory is right up there.
Yes, it is, and it's the only one that comes in this towering monolith of a tin. Goodness, it makes me want to throw a bone in the air and appear in the future.
Don't we all?
So, but what's inside that counts.
Yes.
And this is Strathmill, distilled in 2006 and presently 14 years old. And as you might be able to tell from the colour, I'll give you the backside there, approximating a flask of Coca-Cola, this is a sherry matured whiskey. But what's sort of fun about this sherry matured whiskey is just the nature of how it was sherry matured. I'll start the pour on that one. This one, as it states nice and cogently on the label, which I always appreciate from Signatory, giving you the information that you need. This one was a collection of butts, all refill sherry, matured for its entire life, and then they sort of vatted these together, unplugged them, and thought, oh, what does this need? It needs more
sherry.
So yeah, this 100% sherry matured whiskey, back into sherry it went, back into a fresh butt, first fill, for another 11 months, at which point it was declared finished.
So over 13 years in sherry, and someone said, you know, that's not enough sherry.
No.
We need to go deeper. We need to punch those numbers up.
Insufficient. So I think this is the first,
first fill.
Sherry matured, sherry finished whiskey that we have ever seen, and it may be the only one we see, because that's an interesting series of decisions to get that one.
Now, Strathmill, again, a Speyside distillery you don't hear much about.
Yeah, Strathmill, they just kind of, as they have for many, many years, sit there and distill. They do the job. They are a Diageo-owned distillery. Well, today they are. Who knows? Tomorrow. They're about a changeability in the distilling space these days. But, they just sort of crank out middling quantities of malt. Of no, it's not famous.
Mainly into blends.
And it pretty much just props up the J&B Rare, of which there is a precious little rare about, but that's the name. So if you're familiar with that one, then you are, at least in some way familiar with a small aspect of Strathmill. This, I'm going to say, is not a particularly typical example, so we're not going to get a great look at the distillery character here, because this one is going to be all about the wood. Yeah,
it's one sherry butt to another. I'm a big fan of sherry matured whiskey, so I'm going to avoid making the obvious Sir Mix-a-Lot joke, because I'm classy like that.
Good. We're holding on to it. Holding on to it. 5 whiskies in, we're holding in. All right.
But this is just to say, the colour on this is astonishing. Even if it doesn't come through on the camera, this is somewhere between Coca-Cola and molasses.
It really is.
So dark.
It is easily the blackest whiskey we have seen this year, possibly for a few years. Ones this dark really don't come around that often. And of course, being a Signatory single cask, it is neither coloured nor chill filtered, so what you see is what you get straight from the cask, which is always quite exciting to see.
And it's a positively weapons grade 61%
61.
ABV. That's
so those casks were pretty well nailed together. For a 14-year-old whiskey, you would expect to see something at least in the 50s. They've given up bugger all.
But that's minimal seepage.
Given that it probably went in at 63. That's they have saved a lot of excise on that one. But anyway, without further ado, we'll have a wee look in here. Yeah, it's going to be hot stuff at 61, but we'll see if we can manage.
It's prickling the sinuses a little, but that is rich and syrupy. There is. Oh man, this is going to be a bit of a deep cut, I guess a wild kind of hot take.
It's going to be one of Dave's flavour journeys.
I have a friend, she has a stock of hookah tobacco, so tobacco produced for smoking the traditional water pipe. It is tobacco that's been soaked in rosewater syrup. It is drenched. The stuff is still wet and sticky to this day. It's stored damp. And it's reminding me of that. The stuff is so richly aromatic with that wild sweetness of a rosewater and the stark, carcinogenic, honestly, herbaceousness of a tobacco. And that's quite similar. I don't know if you ever smelled that.
I have smelled tobacco, and it does smell.
I mean, that particular
hookah stuff. I think I've been near it. I have not. I have, but I did not inhale.
Yeah, I've never smoked it, obviously, but I've smelled the raw product in its packaging.
Yeah.
And this
but no, I hear it's pretty spicy stuff. This spicy in that you can't get too close to this without it blowing up my nostrils.
It
but
smells like something I want to chew. Like it's, I'm not doing a good job of describing what it actually smells like. So in terms any regular human can understand. So I'll try to get.
Well, what I'm getting out of here is a lot of vanilla.
Yeah.
There's a not quite a molasses. It's more of a demerara sugar, almost a rummy sugariness going on.
Very heavy syrupy sugars, some florals, pipe or cigar tobacco,
and those are all so strong that anything else is being kind of obfuscated by the intensity of those aromas.
Yeah.
So without water, the nose, despite being extremely intense, isn't particularly complex. And I think I may have destroyed my mind by even thinking about it, but there's a cola quality to this as well.
I've never tried an actual cola nut before, so maybe it's more akin to that. I don't know. I've never had.
Well, I mean, cola is the cola element. Typically, a little bit of vanilla and malt with a bit of citrus. So it's not far away, I guess, necessarily.
But despite the astonishingly high proof on this, it's not doing that whole cauterizing your sinuses thing that some other high proof spirits do.
It depends how far into the glass I get. It will do it to me at a certain point. But let's have it hazard it at full strength on the tongue. Oh yeah, that is a fairly spicy meatball. It's not undrinkable.
Yeah. Oh,
but it does hurt. It does hurt quite a bit.
Yep, that has... what does it have though? It's got... Yeah, it's a rich, hot sweetness. Think some very hot, sticky glazed pork ribs, spare ribs in the, I suppose might be the southern USA style with a sugar and Coca-Cola glaze or whatever. I don't know, they do all kinds there. A bit of chili heat. Very sticky sweetness.
Heat for sure. I think that's. I mean, it was almost going to need water at 61%, but that's. I'm putting some in.
It's a sticky sweet barbecue glaze. That is. I'm going to have another sip of that full strength. Very restrained, of course, because this is frankly perilous. The only other thing I'd add to that flavour profile is perhaps the first pull on a rather zesty cigar. I don't smoke as a matter of course. I've had the occasional cigar now and then, and that does remind me of that though.
A lot of tobacco notes on this one, it seems.
Yeah.
So that water has made this a lot less sticky sweet. There's more of a savoury element coming through. Still a little bit of a tobacco note though, and a lot more wood and tannin. There's a lot more wet oak in here now, which I don't mind at all, because it was probably just a teensy bit too sweet for me with all of that just gushing sugar before.
Oh yeah, that's mellowed it nicely. That has turned it more into something more familiarly Speyside and sherry matured. So
in addition to the oak tannin, we've got cinnamon, allspice, slightly more familiar sherry matured, Oloroso matured stuff.
Lots of the traditional Western Europe Christmas cake spices.
Yeah, now that you mention it, a little bit of mace and clove even. Very, very spicy dram with that addition of water. But also significantly fruitier once you string it out a little.
But not the dank metallic tinned fruit of an older Speyside that's had water added. It's still a fresh fruit or a baked spices. And it's diluted that syrupy stickiness and really softened the tobacco notes too.
So I think as an example of Strathmill, this is probably completely pointless because this is a whiskey that is twofold about the cask. They made damn sure of that when they put it together. And there's one way to completely steamroll a distillery's character, and that is to sherry mature it and then finish it in sherry. That was never going to live. So this really is it's a one-off here. It almost doesn't matter where it came from. This could have come from almost anywhere in Speyside and the Highlands. Given the same treatment, it would probably kind of it landed in pretty much roughly the same area in terms of its flavour. So this is really just a curio for us to taste and enjoy and talk about for a little while. This is not something that's ever going to be repeated, not for a very long time anyway.
But it is a perfect example of what happens when independent bottlers like Signatory just do what they do best. They've picked out
just have fun with something,
truly unique expression which delivers a unique whiskey sampling experience. This is something you drink to just enjoy the very act of tasting it and going through all those layers.
Yeah.
Speaking of layers, I'm getting new layers too. I'm getting like fresh walnuts and pecans.
Yeah, there is a...
It's gone nutty.
Oloroso will always try and give you the walnut quality, as we discovered when we tried straight up Oloroso. It is all about the walnuts. It is walnuts all the way down, so they'll always be there. They just need a lot of water to coax them out normally because there's so many other big flavours in front of them. But yeah, sort of almost toasted hazelnut in here now as well. It's really... Now that we put the water in as a completely untouched whiskey, it is now going on the ride that it does, and we can probably talk about it while we burn the rest of our tape. But we'll leave it there, saying that it is a very exciting sort of space oddity of a whiskey, and something you only ever get with an independent bottle, because this would be utterly unsustainable to make outside of something like maybe an Aberlour Abuna or something is maybe approaching this level of sherry madness, but that's a very, very different style, and also like hugely variable batch to batch. So this is really this is the fun you can only have with independent bottlers like Signatory Vintage in this case, and it is quite a lot of fun because it's something you're just not going to find otherwise.
Out of the entire supply of this whiskey, there were 689 bottles only, so if you've been lucky enough to get one of these, then please tell us what you think. Cast number 7 for those keeping score at home.
It would have been small wee parcel in there. But yeah, scores.
Price-wise, where did it sit compared to...
I didn't buy this one. My partner bought this one for our 14th anniversary, which was convenient. Yeah, so I'd have to ask her. But I'm sure it wasn't cheap, like any single cask 14-year-old single malt. But Signatory, is not going to completely blow you up price-wise. They know... I won't name names, but there's more exclusive independent bottlers out there which will charge you more for their stock. But Signatory Vintage typically is not one of them. Signatory and Cadenheads are both in our corner when it comes to whiskey affordability. But yeah, this one I think scores. It's a whiskey that I find more interesting than necessarily amazing. It's amazing for many ways, but it's not, in terms of like hard out quality, there are better single cask whiskies available. This is just more of a joy than anything else. So it's 86 from me. What do you think?
I'm going quite a bit higher, in fact quite a lot higher, in terms of just the intensity, the quality, the strength of that character, how distinct and laser focused it is, and just the audacious decision to just take a sherry matured whiskey and finish it in more sherry. It just delivers more. This is in like top tier, god tier Scotch whiskey, and this one rates a 95 from me.
Wow, there we go.
Basically, like, there is very little which could rate this down. It'll come down to subjective flavours, of course. Like this hits all kinds of flavour notes and interest notes, which really appeal to me as a person. So this is 95 by my reckoning. I don't believe such a thing as an objective score anyway. This is just truly outstanding.
Well, I think that's still
please.
That's still the highest score we're going to see this year. I think as we run out of year, it's going to have to really whiskey is going to have to really slam us to do better than that. 95. Those do not come around particularly often. That's interesting stuff. Well, when you've got laser focus and you hit the bullseye, and in this case, Dave was the bullseye, and the whiskey has firmly implanted itself within him. So good job there, Strathmill. It has found a fan.
Strathmill even.
Oh yeah, Strathmill. There's too many Straths out there. The day just goes on and on. Anyway, Long River. So, Slanger, we'll be right back with something less exciting than this, but nonetheless very curious, I promise.
Something with more than 700 bottles in the world at least.
Yes, easily, considering who makes it. So stick around for that one. We will be right back.